Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome everyone to weekly Quranic wisdom study with Dr. Yamina. Inshallah, we're continuing to study principles of approaching the Quran. These are very helpful rules and principles to use as we tune in to the guidance of our Rabb through the Quran. We have been reading this text with Imam Nursi for a couple of weeks now, and it's from Risale-i-Nur. The text, the book is called The Words, and we're looking at 20th word from the Risale-i-Nur. As usual, Dr. Yamina is leading us in this Quranic wisdom study, and you are welcome. I actually encouraged to join in with your comments and questions. Thank you. And inshallah, I should also note that these are the last couple Quranic wisdom studies of the summer. Inshallah, during summer there will be some other activities, but Dr. Yamina's weekly Quranic wisdom study will probably won't be there in the summer. So inshallah, we will all benefit from these last couple Quranic wisdom studies with Dr. Yamina during the summer. So without further delay, I'd turn to Dr. Yamina. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Isra. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings and mercy, abundant mercy be upon all of us, inshallah. We need it so much, even when we are not aware of it. We think we need other things, but actually what we need is only with Him and can only be with Him. And when we forget that, then we make other creations of God, other blessings and gifts of God into idols. And that was related to the second point about the sacrificing the cow, and we saw how these people were worshipping the cow. That's why they were asked to particularly sacrifice a cow and not, for instance, another kind of animal. They were worshipping a golden calf, and we didn't get into the story as it is told in the Quran. What is important is their worship and they're being obstinate and unwilling to sacrifice the cow. So, inshallah, if you have any comments, any reflections you want to share about that, please go ahead. Otherwise, we'll carry on with the third point. And the third point is actually related to Ayah 74 of Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah 2. Which is again related to the story of the sacrificing of the cow. It's talking about the hearts of these people who keep being blessed with miracles and with so many blessings, yet they insist in their ingratitude, and we can see that through what they are doing, through their attitude. There is no surrender, there is no submitting to the divine will. And each time when they speak to Musa alayhi salam, who they recognize as a messenger of God, they speak to him each time and say, your Rabb, your sustainer, your Lord, your God. Subhanallah.
And Dr. Amina, that's also related perhaps to feeling God distant, and it's also related to then making an idol, because one of the things about idol worship is that I think this was mentioned one of the halakas, your halakas, many years ago, that the idol is so comprehensible and just right in front of you. So
it's part of the story, actually.
Yeah.
When they make the idol, that's how they feel. The Samiri comes. They feel this is more palpable. This is like clearly there is. They don't feel the closeness to God, and that's what the whole shirk comes in that distance, in that illusory distance. And closing that distance is what's going to close the shirk. And that's why there is this emphasis in Imam Nursi rahimahullah is in you have to surrender to God as your Rabb, and then you can surrender to him as the Rabb of everything. That's an important. Go ahead, Isra.
And also connected to that, Imam Nursi elsewhere talks about the formula that's mentioned a lot. It's in the hadith, and it's mentioned as very, very good to remember. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, Subhanallah al-Azim. And that phrase is glorifying God and then offering gratitude to God at the same time. And Imam Nursi talks about how, on the one hand, God is so far from us because he's completely, utterly different from us. We're created, we're dependent, we are needy, and the Creator is absolute, eternal, self-sufficient. So, the difference between us could not be more. I mean, it's the absolute difference, eternal difference. In that sense, God is really far from us, but God is close to us through taking care of us every moment, and through all kinds of attention. And
that's the point, right? He is close to us, because when we are self-centered, we want to be close to him. But it's only when we give up that illusory I that we realize that he is here. Right? As we are told in the Quran, he's closer to you than your own jugular vein.
Yeah. So then in these passages about being, making an idol and then idolizing a cow, there's a weakness in human being that we want to feel close, but the way to feel close is not to turn the Creator into a form of us or a form of a creature, rather to recognize that what we immediately see and benefit from is actually coming from our Rabb.
True, but I think we need to also add another dimension to this, which is here it's not like I feel, it's not a sincere, I mean, especially in the story of the people of Musa alayhi salam in the Surah Al-Baqarah, you don't feel this sincere, they want to really devote themselves to God, they want to surrender, but they felt like he's so far and things like that. It's more about here, the God that we worship in the idols is our benefits, our fulfilling our desires, fulfilling our, we can call it needs as well, but the needs are already taken care of. So it's really, I see it as coming from a self-centered attitude, if you see what I mean.
Could you clarify that a bit? So
it's not because of a genuinely, I don't know if it's not genuinely, I'm to surrender to God. But in my ignorance, I don't know who God is, so he feels so far. So I find other things that feel much closer. this is not the scenario, just to make sure, make it clear. The scenario is my attachment to the cow, to things that matter to me, is there is something I'm benefiting from, whether it doesn't have to be material or physical, whatever it is. I see something there, there is an attachment there, and that's why that love, that adoration turns into a kind of worship, and it becomes it feels close, because I feel a need is being fulfilled through that relationship, through that connection.
Mm-hmm. And I'm unwilling. Is that what you're trying to?
Yeah, and I see it as source without questioning it. So it's not really because deep down everyone knows that can't be God. So it's not like we're replacing God out of genuine confusion or something. It's not a genuine confusion. It's more an ego, self-centered, greedy, looking only for our own, looking at everything from our own little perspective. I mean, even when we don't necessarily have a bad intention, we still have not made the intentional choice to have the good intention here meaning to surrender, to submit, to worship God, whatever that God is, even if we still are not sure clearly who it is. You see what I mean? When we don't have that clear intention to worship God, then by default, we are not totally innocent, if you see what I mean. And especially in the way the story is told here about the people of Moses, you can feel how ungrateful they are, especially after all the miracles that happen, you know. They are in Egypt oppressed, and then Musa alayhi salam comes back, right? He had left, he ran away when he was wanted for murder. And then he comes back later, many years later, and there are lots of miracles. And at the end, he can take them away, but still Pharaoh and his army go after them. But then there is the parting of the sea. So that was a huge miracle. They were saved and they witnessed it. When they go on the other side of the sea in the desert, there is no water. Musa alayhi salam receives the revelation. There is again another miracle. The أضرب بعصاك الحجرة. The striking the rock with the staff, and you have this water, and it's not only one fountain of water. They have 12 fountains of water, like for each tribe their own water. So there is not only abundance, but also so they don't fight with each other over water, because this is now water. When you're in a desert, it's like the most prized ni'mah, blessing. It's like life. Without it, there will be nothing. And they get the manna and salwa, they get the food. And for the food, for instance, what do they say afterwards? They say, like, we're fed up with this. We don't want this. We want, what did they say in the ayah, if you remember?
Garlic and
no, yeah, they want things that the earth produces, right? That's what they said. yeah, so they say we can't anyway, we can't endure this I think it was one kind of food. And again, if I remember correctly, they asked him, can you ask your Rabb to bring us what the earth grows? What's important is they want something from the earth, not from the heaven. And they say, yeah, cucumbers, and I think there was thumiha, so garlic was there.
Yeah.
And
here
lentils. Yeah, you said lentils, true. And Musa alayhi salam is like shocked, like, how can we exchange what's is better for what's lower? And then he said, okay, go back then, go wherever you want, as if. But you can see how these people went through all these miracles, and these miracles are major miracles, and they benefited directly from the miracles. Yet each time you can feel how they're still ungrateful, and they are not willing to surrender and to find out, to live, to find out the purpose of their life. The purpose can only be found when we surrender that I am here, a creation of God. I'm being taken care of right now. So I acknowledge my Rabb. No, there you ask your Rabb, it means they know it's God, but I don't want to acknowledge his rububiyyah over me, his dominion over me, because I'm not living my life for the purpose that he has set for me, which is like totally crazy if we think about it in from another perspective, because then any other purpose doesn't lead anywhere, because any other purpose can't go beyond transience. Yet we are not here to eat one food or to eat what the earth. It depends. Sometimes we're given this, sometimes we're given that, because those are all means. They are not the reason for our life. They are not the purpose of our life. Just wanted to
clarify.
Clarify that, so that I feel like for my own self, like if I don't clarify that, it's like giving Lee out to myself, like justifications. No, this is about surrendering.
Or at least being willing to surrender. So when
being willing, yeah. But before I can surrender, I have to be willing to surrender at least. Yeah. So that even if when I don't, if someone reminds me, hey, what are you doing? I say, oh, thank you. I totally, it became a habit, because most of us, our habit is to not surrender. Our habit is not to be consciously grateful. So we want to change this by at least being willing to do it and not resisting obstinately like these people are doing here. And we can recognize, like when you read the story of the people of Musa, it sounds vaguely familiar.
Exactly, because we have in us too. So Ziba has a comment in this vein. What stands out in their behavior is forgetting all the favors, which is defined as ingratitude. I find myself in similar situations of ingratitude unless I consciously stay in the present or look back at all the incidences of his favor upon me. Yeah, almost like a default state that we slide into.
Yeah, and we slide into it very like we're not even aware of. Subhanallah. That's why dhikr in the Quran, it's not like there is no neutral state. You're either in conscious remembrance or you forgot. And that's why we need to keep reminding ourselves, inshallah, until at least remembering becomes our habit, inshallah.
And last time we contrasted this with Ibrahim alayhi salam and his son's surrender. And I don't know if I'm trying to justify our initial responses, but initially it can be painful. The command can feel painful, and these people here too, like they feel pain. Like, what? We're going to slaughter a cow? And yet, Ibrahim alayhi salam's command was even more difficult. It's not just a cow, but he's willing to surrender, and that's the big difference. And here there's a resistance constantly going back and forth. And
just a cow, because we don't.
True.
Actually, you're a farmer. The cow for a farmer is like someone's truck if you are a handyman or something, or someone who loves car. Someone who has a very beautiful car, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For instance.
Yeah, so livelihood, survival, it can.
Or like someone says, like, leave your job.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What am I going to do?
What am I going to do without my paycheck? Yeah.
Or give all your money this month. Even if you say only 1 month, if they say half, we start questioning all of it. No way. Are you sure?
Are you kidding? Right? They said, are you kidding with us? And this is the problem. Why would we give you?
Isn't that exactly how it would feel?
Yeah.
However, there are people who don't believe in God and can give the whole of it. But I personally would be like, my hand would be trembling. Didn't we say that we believe God is like the provider? We know that. I've never been, hungry in my life. Still, for me, that means I have to revise my relationship with money, definitely, because there are degrees of attachment. Some can't give even a little bit, but just because this is what came to my mind this week, just because you can give a little bit doesn't mean that you resolved it. How much can you give? I found that I had limits. Why? Everyone can answer in their hearts. For me, I know that I'm far from having slaughtered that cow.
At the same time, there isn't a command to give everything, is there? I mean,
no, not necessarily. I'm not saying.
Mm-hmm.
But for instance, I read about the Sahaba, how much like they gave so much. It's easy to read about it, but when I ask myself sincerely, can I do the same thing? No. Mm-hmm. I'm not there yet.
I mean, they left everything, as part of their journey of surrender. They left everything. When it became clear that either you go back to idol worship and stay here, or you have to leave everything.
Yeah, but even afterwards, like they left some for their livelihood, but they also gave a lot, right? Like Abdurrahman bin Auf, who was known as being wealthy, but he was blessed with, even when he moved to Medina, he didn't have anything, and he was blessed with, he was a good tradesman. And he would give, like in one of the hadiths, he gave a whole caravan of goods. For him, it's because he's so clear that it is coming from that endless mercy. So he has no doubt. So he has no fear that what will happen to me. And as you said, they left everything when they were going from Mecca to Medina. And in Medina, because of that belief, he started again he became wealthy again. Because the wealth is not there, the land or the wealth, the source of the wealth is somewhere else beyond time and space.
Then why are people more careful about their energy?
Which energy?
If I tell you spend 20 hours with a person, with a needy person, you know that you cannot spend 20 hours, you're going to say no. if you ask me the same question,
maybe you don't have it. It's like you tell me, give $1 million. I don't have it, even if I wanted.
but everybody has 24 hours.
Yeah, but 24 hours. But if you spend 20 hours, the question is very multi-layered. First, 20 hours, and this person has needs as well. So it's not like 20 hours you give it to others totally, because this person needs to sleep and eat and rest. And second, personally, let's say not 20, let's make it more reasonable, 8 hours, because we go to work, lots of people go to work for 8 hours. 8 hours, 8 hours in for what? Who is this person? What's their need? That also is a totally open question. If I am not, convinced, then it's not a matter of giving the energy, it's a matter of, I'm not convinced that's the right place to give. Like, it's like the money, but someone is asking me to give the money, and I know the person is going to buy something harmful. So it's not because I don't want to give the money, I will give the money somewhere else. For instance, I'm just giving an example because the question is coming out of nowhere without context, and it's difficult to answer then.
But I'm saying, is this then the cow that is more acceptable? It is more acceptable for people to refuse.
No, not necessarily, because remember last week, the emphasis was what makes something the cow, the money or the career or the reputation or the whatever, the cow is not that thing in itself, is how I relate to it, how my connection, my interaction with it, my relationship with it, my attachment to it makes it an idol, a cow or not. In itself, it's not. Even like in the Quran, it says that those idols, those things that you made into idols, they will testify against you that we were not idols and we never acted like idols. So nothing is wrong with that. And so we can't generalize, because for each person, it will depend on their, they will have to decide for themselves what the relationship is, the reasons why. It's not a matter of energy, it's a matter of the person's attitude.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that clarification, because it could come across as if it's a matter of quantity, how much you give, whether it's money or time or...
Because we may not have the money at all. I have zero money, and I may be more attached to it and deify it more than someone who has lots of money.
Yeah, there's a story in some Sufi circles that there was this man who was a very, very giving person, and he would only eat a piece of bread for dinner with some water, and anything he gets, he gives to the poor. He's constantly helping the poor. And then he, at some point, he admits that he actually, anytime I sit down to eat, in my heart, I wish I had, a rich meal in front of me. So every time as he's eating, he still is longing for it. So then, his sheikh is saying to him that you need to get rid of that. That's the real problem. Anyhow. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how helpful these stories are, but the point is to come back to the point that it's how we relate to things. It's not necessarily about having a lot of money or giving, I don't know, like the quantity is, even everybody can challenge themselves to give more, but it's hard to tell, whether...
Because I can give more and then feel like proud of myself. I am the giver. Okay, we got into another trap now. So it's not that simple.
Or as the verse says, don't tabdira, don't
Waste.
yeah, and then you will say, okay, what am I going to stand on myself or my family? Yeah, it's a delicate situation because we do have fear, some of it which is legitimate and some of which is just exaggeration of legitimate needs. So, but ultimately it comes back to the idea of to what extent we see it's coming from beyond and to what extent we actually think it's coming from the apparent or seeming causes. The moments of sacrifice, the moments of surrender is where it becomes more clear to us. So we see then, would it be fair to say that we see both in the Quran, both the example of these people who resist slaughtering the cow, and an example of Abraham willing to sacrifice in response to God's command. And we can choose to, and one of them highlights our, potential pitfall. We all have it in ourselves, and the other one highlights our potential growth and ideal, but it's a potential for all of us as well. So as we're approaching, the second Eid and Dhul Hijjah, the month of commemorating Ibrahim alayhi salam's sacrifice, these are worth reflecting more on, inshallah. So with that, maybe we can come back to tonight's text.
The third point, inshallah.
Yeah. Did you want to go back to the Quranic text, or we just read it from here?
Yeah, let's read it from here for the moment, inshallah.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to read the third point?
I can read, inshallah.
Okay, thank you.
Third point. And yet, after all this, your hearts hardened and became like rocks, or even harder. For behold, there are rocks from which streams gush forth. And behold, there are some from which, when they are cleft, water issues. And there are some that fall down for awe of God. And God is not unmindful of what you do. And that's the Quranic ayah, Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 74. While reading the above verse, the whisperer said, "What meaning is there in discussing and explaining as though they were the most important and significant of matters, certain natural states of rocks, which are commonplace and everyone knows about? How is it fitting, and what need is there?" In the face of this suggestion, the following point was imparted to me from the effulgence of the Quran. Yes, it is fitting, and there is need for it. And it is so fitting that there is a meaning so significant and truth so enormous and necessary that only through the Quran's miraculous conciseness and guiding grace has it been simplified to a degree and summarized. Yes, conciseness, one foundation of the Quran's miraculousness, and guiding grace and fitting instruction, which are one light of its guidance, require that in the face of ordinary people, who form the majority of those whom the Quran addresses, universal truths and profound and general principles are shown in familiar and particular forms, and that, due to their simple minds, only the tips of vast truths are shown in a simple form, and moreover, that the divine disposals, which are wondrous and extraordinary beneath the veil of the commonplace and under the earth, are shown briefly. That is due to this mystery, that the all-wise Quran says the following with the above verse. O children of Israel and sons of Adam, what has happened to you that your hearts have become harder and more lifeless than stone? For do you not see that those extremely hard, lifeless, huge rocks formed in vast strata under the earth are so obedient and subjugated before the divine commands, and so soft and tractable under the dominical works that to whatever degree the divine disposals occur without resistance in the formation of trees in the air, orderly water, channels, and veins, like the circulation of blood in veins, occur with the same ease and order, and with perfect wisdom in those hard, deaf rocks under the earth. And like the way the branches of trees and plants spread in the air with ease, encountering no obstacles, the delicate veins of roots spread with the same ease in the rocks under the earth. The Quran indicates this and teaches an extensive truth with the verse, and thus by allusion says the following to the hard-hearted: O children of Israel and sons of Adam, what sort of heart do you bear within your weakness and impotence, so that with its hardness it resists the command of such a one? Whereas how perfectly and obediently the huge strata of hard rocks carry out their delicate duties in the darkness before his commands. They display no disobedience. Indeed, those rocks act as treasurers for the water of life and other means of life of all the living creatures above the earth, and are the means for their division and distribution. They do this with such wisdom and justice that they are soft like wax or air in the hand of power of the all-wise one of glory. Offering no resistance, they prostrate before his mighty power. For just like well-ordered creatures and wise and gracious divine disposals occur on top of the earth, which we observe, the same occur beneath it. Indeed, divine wisdom and favor are manifest there in a more wondrous and strange way in regard to wisdom and order. See how like wax those hard, unfeeling, mighty rocks display a softness towards the creational commands, and how they offer no resistance or hardness to the delicate waters, the fine roots and silken veins, which are divine officials. As though like a lover, the rock's heart melts at the touch of those delicate, beautiful things and becomes earth in their path.
Shall we stop here and then carry on?
Yeah, inshallah.
Thank you. So there is this ayah at the end, after the miracle of the murdered person is revived and tells them who the murderer was. And then this ayah comes, 274, if you remember last week. And again, we are reminded of the topic at the beginning of this 20th word, which is the whisperer here saying, asking again, so what is this to do with, like, the Quran is universal guidance for humanity, and talking about, okay, their hearts are as hard as the rocks, and then talking about the rocks. What is it to do with me? And then the answer is, he says, yes, it is fitting, and there is need for it. Not only it's fitting, but it's more than just fitting. It is so fitting, and there is a meaning so significant, and a truth so enormous and necessary, that only through the Quran's miraculous conciseness and guiding grace has it been simplified to a degree and summarized. It means here there is something huge going on, but in the Quran, in its mercy, because it is universal guidance, because it speaks to everyone at all times, at all levels, it is said in such a simple way. But this simple way is, again, remember, the tip of universal laws. Laws of rahmah, laws of wisdom, laws of knowledge, laws of divine power, all-encompassing power. Then he says, yes, conciseness here is ijaz, and miraculousness is i'jaz. One is ijaz from wajaza, the other one is i'jaz from ajaza. And guiding grace, the conciseness in the Quran, like you don't speak again and again as we do, like saying lots of words to express one idea, because there is no clarity because of lots of factors. Here's the other way around. Few words to express so many layers of truth, all-encompassing truth that are so full of guidance and so necessary for us. So this conciseness, this ijaz, is a foundation of the Quran's miraculousness. It's a miracle of the Quran. It's what makes the Quran even more miraculous. And guiding grace and fitting instruction, which are one light of its guidance. So its guidance is not only, doesn't consist only of this, but this is an important factor in its being guidance for all of us, and requires that in the face of ordinary people like us, we're not people who meditate and reflect and day in, day out, 20 hours a day. We barely reflect on the Quran, astaghfirullah. So who form the majority of those whom the Quran addresses, universal truths and profound and general principles are shown in familiar and particular forms. So that's the way we understand, to make it easier for us to grasp. And then once we grasp it, then if someone wants to reflect more, they will, it will be like Imam Nursi says somewhere else, those truth becomes like a telescope to see further, more comprehensive truth that are at first sight, because we are not at that level, at first sight they are far away from us, but this guidance becomes like the telescope that we can use eventually if we are willing, inshallah. And due to their simple mind here, in the sense that in order to have a higher mind power, heart power, you need training. So if we have not gone through that training, only the tips of vast truths are shown, and in a simple form, and moreover, that the divine disposals, which are wondrous and extraordinary, beneath the veil of the commonplace and under the earth, are shown briefly. Here, divine disposals, here this divine disposal is, if you remember, the 33 windows. Each window was a window onto these divine disposals. And you could see that things that we take for granted, like the winds, things growing, insects, all kinds of things, are not only part of a whole interconnected whole system, but also because of that also, they all testify to the all-comprehensive beautiful names of God. So there is tremendous all-comprehensive power that is that these truth point to. There is this tremendous power, this order, therefore order, and also the benefits. So there is wisdom, therefore there is knowledge, and there is mercy, because the benefits are all beneficial to living beings, to life. There is life, and you go on, you can find so many, there is beauty, so many beautiful names going on. And that's the divine disposal. And they are going on right here and now, continuously flowing. They are wondrous, extraordinary. Beneath the veil of the commonplace, when we are in ghafla, when we don't pay attention, it seems like commonplace to us, because we take it for granted. But the moment we pause, stop, and ask the question, then we realize that everything is so miraculous. There is nothing that necessitates that it happens this way. Yet it does happen, starting from our own breathing. There is nothing in me or in the world that necessitates that I will be breathing. I'm breathing now. How do I know that? Because anytime I can stop breathing. There's nothing that says, no, I can't stop breathing because of this. Yet, we don't stop until the divine decree comes, subhanAllah. And that's true for everything else. So my breathing right now is a miracle in that sense. Thus, it is due to this mystery, this wondrous divine disposals beneath the veil of the commonplace, of course, in our perception, to this mystery that the all-wise Quran says the following with the above verse, the verse that was just shared to 74 of Surah Al-Baqarah. And then he says, "O children of Israel and children of Adam." So the ayah seems to be addressing the children of Israel. It's Musa alayhi salam and his people. But when he says children of Adam, it becomes everyone. And that was talked about in the story of Adam, how it addresses everyone, because each one of us is potential Adam. What has happened to you that your hearts have become harder and more lifeless than stone? So this ayah is coming after all these miracles and all this, each time there, as Ziba mentioned, this not being grateful for what is given. And so this attitude is a hard, indicates a hardness of the heart. If you remember, it says that your hearts have become harder and more lifeless than stone. So the heart is hard and it becomes lifeless because the stone is lifeless. And if you, most probably, we all heard as Iman being the life of hearts. So when there is Iman, when there is that faith and belief, and here belief is not knowing that there is God in the sense of knowing here, it's not true knowing, what we believing in God. And as Imam Nursi says, like, not denying God is not the same as believing in God. Believing here in the sense of Iman Billah means you know who God is. You have witnessed an evidence, an indication of his existence. It's not just, I don't deny God. I don't deny God is one step, but there is a step beyond, which is I believe God is the creator of this because I witnessed. That's why Shahada is so important. Otherwise, that's not really belief. That's not Iman. And the heart starts desiccating. That Iman brings life to the heart. And of course, there are also always degrees, because there is Iman and the gratitude that comes with it. The gratitude to God, and together with the gratitude, it's going to reveal itself in ihsan and in our interaction with the rest of the world. So there is compassion, there is generosity, there is justice, there is, and that's why it's the heart is softens and alive. So there are two things here. It becomes hard and lifeless. And it reminds me of the hadith that says there is a piece of flesh in the body. If it is good, the whole body is good, and if it gets spoiled, then the whole body is spoiled. And that is the heart. ألا وهي القلب. So the heart is a symbol here of lots of things. And in the Quran also, it told a day for the day of judgment is a day in which wealth and children will not benefit you, except the one إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, except the one who comes to God with a sound heart, with a pure heart. So here in this ayah, just to for my own clarity, there are two. The ayah is talking about rocks from which streams gush forth, and rocks when they are cleft, water issues, and rocks when they fall down for awe of God. So usually in tafsir, mostly I haven't checked, or actually I'm just relying on memories. So sorry, I should have checked maybe. Usually this is seen as a metaphor, like as if in this verse, God provides like a parallel between hearts and stones. Like some hearts like easily turn to God, like the gushing forth, the first one. Others turn to God after being split hard. They are hard and then they are split and then they turn to God. And some drop in awe before God. And so these are seen as types of attitudes or of hearts of the believers. But here in this text, the author, Imam Nursi rahimahullah, he's looking at it from another perspective. It doesn't mean the other one is not there. He's just looking at it from so the metaphor here, he is looking at it deeper than just comparing the hearts with the rocks as a metaphor. He's saying why the rocks are chosen, because they are wondrous ayat of God. So it's go and look at, and it would be good if someone next week would share with us how rocks interact with water and with soil, the relationship between rocks, water, and soil in nature. So he's saying rocks just not only because of hardness of the rock, but also because these rocks, the way they gush forth with the streams gush forth from them and water issues from them, and how they fall down and they become the soil. Soil is there's no agriculture, no food without soil. Lots of things, and without, it's not only there's no food, without vegetation, there is no oxygen and this and that. So there will be no life as far as we're concerned. So he's saying, look at the miracle of the rocks. So in a way, Wallahu A'lam, inshallah, you can also reflect about it and we can share next week. I felt like, okay, we talked about the people of Musa alayhi salam. They've witnessed all these miracles and they benefited from the miracles, water and food when you are in the desert. The parting of the sea when Pharaoh, like someone very powerful and you are the oppressed slave and he is coming after you. Yet they still act as if nothing happened. So it feels like, oh, how, what an ungrateful, like bunch of people. But then something feels also familiar. And when we ask ourselves, like, how is it related to me? Where do I act this way? Then this ayah is giving me an example. So not only the heart is like that, but also something, these miracles, like it seems I haven't witnessed miracles. I don't get food ready for, like manna and salwa. I don't just strike and then water comes. I have to pay the bill for the water. Where is the miracle? So I'm good. But is this true? And here, the author is saying, consider the miracle of the rocks. This is something that's going on all the time here and now. And this is what we are going to, this is what he's talking about here. So this is a miracle. It's a huge miracle because it's related to our life, to our food, to our living, everything that has to do with us directly, yet we seldom think about it, we take it for granted. So how is it? It seems to us, or it seems to me, like if I went through the parting of the sea, then probably I wouldn't forget. It doesn't seem like part of us say that, but we know that deep down, I could very well forget about it, because when I look at in my life, lots of things happened, yet that's what Ziba said, it's better to keep reminding ourselves and also keep paying attention to the miracles now. So does it make sense how the ayah is not only comparing the heart, the hardness of the heart and the lifelessness of the heart to the rock, but also choosing the rock and talking about these three qualities of rocks related in relation to water and to soil, because those are miracles that we witness here and now. And they are miracles that are related to us, to our life here and now. So it's saying, do you not see that those extremely hard, lifeless, huge rocks formed in vast strata under the earth are so obedient and subjugated before the divine commands? So it's a miracle that we are observing, and it's a miracle. Not only it's an ayah, therefore an evidence of divine power and divine generosity and mercy and all that. And that is what is going to give me the strength to be part of the obeying the divine command. That it makes sense to obey the divine command. This command is what is feeding me right here and now. It's what behind everything that's happening here and now. So if I have the intention, if I have that mail, that inclination to and the willingness to surrender, now I will have the evidence like Ibrahim alayhi salam, like now I can see that yes, he is doing everything is under his command. We're less likely to make idols and worship them. We're less likely to forget, and more likely to be more and more at awe and grateful. Of course, there is always the necessary condition first, which is that we are willing and we choose to do it. But if we don't do this, if we don't follow this guidance and reflect, then even if we are willing, it becomes hard because we don't have evidence. We can't make shahada. We can't make shahada to God. What does it mean? It means what we see and perceive, we are misreading it, misperceiving it. We start seeing it as if it's happening on its own, because there is no neutral perception in the objective without agency. We always have to give the agency either to God or to things themselves, and therefore to ourselves as well. So here saying, do you not see that these huge rocks formed in vast strata under the earth are so obedient and subjugated to the divine commands, and so soft and tractable under the dominical, here is Rabbani, works, that whatever degree the divine disposal occurs without resistance. Here it's really nice. Can you see here the formation of trees? You know, the trees, however big their branches are in the air, that much they would have roots down there, so it's balanced. Now in the air, we take it for granted because that's how we are used to. I can move my hands and my body, I can walk, I can move anything in the air. There's no air, doesn't have much resistance. But I can't, in water, it's harder to walk. Inside the soil, I can't go in a trench and then start walking inside the soil. I have to use force to remove the soil, and then I can move. Yet, the tree, you have the branches, as they are growing with ease, without any resistance in the air, so are the roots growing with ease and without resistance under the soil. Even if there are rocks, they will still go through. Subhanallah. So he's saying both are so acting in the name of God. So the root is moving in the name of God, and the soil recognizes the divine command and obeys. Let it go through. So without resistance in the formation of trees in the air, orderly water channels and veins, like the circulation of blood in veins, occurs with the same ease and order and with perfect wisdom. So it's not only the roots of the trees, but also there is water in the soil under the earth. And they are like veins of blood veins. They're circulating everywhere. So soil here, rocks, when they become powder-like, they become soil. What was the ayah, the word in the ayah? They fall down in awe and they become
First part, right? I mean, وإن من الحجارة لما يتفجر منه الأنهار. So
that's the first one. I was talking
the corresponding to the first one, that they under the ground, you know,
yeah,
inside the rocks, there are these channels of water or
water.
Circulation, blood circulation, kind of water circulation happening.
The soil, which is just pulverized rocks and minerals, they are rocks as well. And they hold these nutritions, they hold water like this, and as streams and under, we're not talking of, the streams on the top are also held through rocks, so they don't go under earth, but under earth also there is water. There is nutrition and there is water. And also the soil filters and cleanses the water. Subhanallah.
Dr. Yamina, it's 10:10, so should we pause here or?
Yeah, well, I was going to pause at the deaf rocks under the earth. So like the circulation of blood in veins, it happens so easily, occurs with the same ease and order and with the perfect wisdom in those hard, deaf rocks under the earth. And here we will, inshallah, talk about it. There is a footnote as well. The rocks are deaf, they are hard, they can't see, they're blind. So clearly they are not doing it. Clearly they are acting at the command of an all-powerful, all-seeing, all-giving, all-knowing, all-wise. Subhanallah. So inshallah, we'll leave it here. If you can read the rest and share some reflections on the text, and also if anyone knows a little bit about how rocks interact, how they become soil, how water runs under the ground, and also the even overground, like surface of the earth, springs, it has to have rocks so that the water that is not absorbed doesn't disappear. If you know anything and you can share it, that would be also good, inshallah. And the reflection is how the ayah is, by mentioning this very observable miracle that is part of our life, but that we take for granted, like air, you know, it's something that we take so for granted. So the wisdom in the ayah mentioning the rocks, because it doesn't say just as hard as the rocks. No, it says even the rocks are not like that. And then it goes on telling us what the rocks do. So then there are three It doesn't just say, if it was just for hardness and lifelessness, it would say they are as hard as the rocks. But saying, no, look, even rocks actually are not as hard, because look, they look lifeless, yet through them Allah is sending life.
Mm-hmm. And in a sense, they do surrender.
And yeah, they surrender to the. So what is it about you? What what do you rely on? As he will say later in the text, like, you're so weak, so helpless. So what are you doing? Like, in a sense, we're not only the heart is worse than is harder than a rock. We are acting more dumb than a rock when we don't surrender to divine will. Subhanallah, astaghfirullah.
Okay.
That's why we need to, that's why there is barakah, blessing in jama'ah, in community, and inshallah community that is built on haqq, on tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr, on reminding each other of the truth and the right path, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we'll carry on next week, and it'll be nice if you can share your reflections. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jazakumullah khair, inshallah. And yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.